Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Melanie Lake. I'm a combat engineer from the Canadian Army. I'm currently working in Canadian Army headquarters back in Ottawa and have a secondary role that I'm coming to the end of right now as a deputy chair of the NATO Committee on Gender Perspectives.
Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
Can you introduce me to your career journey?
Oh.
I know it's a long one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started off at the Royal Military College when I was 17 years old. I studied there for 4 years. I completed my combat engineer training, and then in that role, I had the opportunity to deploy almost right away to Afghanistan as a young troop commander. I think I was 23 years old. Commanding troops in combat, which was a really formative and driving learning experience. I deployed 2 more times after that to Afghanistan in roles as a human intelligence operator, and then again as an operations officer. I commanded a tactical squadron in a combat engineer regiment. Had the opportunity to work at multiple strategic and operational jobs, including for our Chief of Defense Staff and in our operational command. A highlight certainly was commanding a combat engineer regiment, 2 combat engineer regiment in Petawawa, Canada. And during that time, I had the opportunity to deploy as the task force commander for Operation Unifier. That's Canada's military training mission to Ukraine just before the full-scale invasion. Following that role, I had a really unique opportunity to spend 3 years seconded to our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working with our ambassador for Women, Peace and Security. And now I find myself at Army headquarters working in our Directorate of Personnel Management.
Your career is very impressive. I would like to go back to the beginning. So what motivated you to join the armed forces?
It's interesting. I grew up in a very isolated small town, a square kilometer big in the middle of the Labrador wilderness. But I was always really drawn to international security issues. Like even as a kid, I would eat my breakfast watching BBC World News. And coming from where I did, there wasn't a ton of exposure to the full range of careers that one could pursue in that domain. It was really unexpected for me to join the military. I was very bubbly, disorganized. I was a figure skater. Like there was nothing that indicated this would be my path. But when I was in my last year of high school, I went to a program, Encounters with Canada, that brings kids from across the country to Ottawa. And several of the people there told me about the military college, and I don't know, something clicked. I was like, wow, maybe that's a way to work in these spaces that I've been watching on the news as I eat my breakfast every day. So I applied. I was very last minute, almost too late for the year, but somehow I got in and on the spur of the moment accepted, never thinking. I mean, there's been many stages of my career where I was certain I was going to get out and, it was going to be a short career. I would transition to something else, but there's always something over time that's kept me in. I think a lot of it has to do with the people I serve with, but also, when things are happening in the world, having a way that you can actually engage and contribute and maybe have an opportunity to make things a little better.
Is this what wearing the uniform means to you personally?
I still get choked up when I think about, the privilege of wearing the Canadian flag on my shoulder and what that means in terms of, the trust that our country places in us. Even as a young woman, when I deployed on my first operation at 23 years old, you're entrusted with these responsibilities for the people's lives who you're serving with and are serving under you. And you're asked to make really big decisions that can have, big impacts, both where you're serving and back home. The weight of the responsibility is I think never lost. But to me, I think at the end of the day, it means that I get to serve with, some of the best of my country, and I have an opportunity to support Canadians and others when need arises.
Was there any particular moment when you realized that that was the place you belonged to?
To be frank, there's been multiple times over my career where I've gotten to a point where, like, it's been a wave of times where I felt like, yes, I'm really where I belong and I'm making an impact, and this is exactly what I should be doing. And then other moments where I really question whether I fit within this organization, whether, we're still compatible, whether I should be doing something else. I had mentioned that there's been multiple times that I've thought about getting out, but every time I was on the fence, there would be something that happened. And often, it would be something about the team that I was working in and the people around me, or the sense of purpose that came from what we were doing that kept me in. Certainly, I would say, one of the peak moments was my tour in Ukraine. I knew it was going to be good before I left, but I had no idea just how meaningful that would be. We had a team of about 200 people. We were dispersed across the country. When we first deployed, Russia was building up on the border. This was in the spring of 2021, and it became very real to our people. Like, we saw what we were there for, what we were trying to support, preparation and preparedness against, and just seeing how our team just rose to the occasion. We had junior leaders in many of these locations. I think we were spread out maybe 15 places around the country, from Kharkiv to Lviv, to Odessa. And in many of these places, it was junior leaders who, were in charge of that detachment. And they used so much initiative and really took to heart the mission, built such strong relationships, and they absorbed as much from Ukrainians as they gave. So just seeing, we were teaching concepts like mission command, but we were able to actually demonstrate it through these incredible senior NCOs and junior officers who were leading in these locations and using all their initiative. Like, it was so meaningful, and it was devastating, watching the full-scale invasion erupt in February of 2022. But I was so thankful that I'd had the opportunity to be there and even have the tiniest role in supporting preparation for that.
What are the skills that you use the most in your job today?
I would say, communication and emotional intelligence, probably, like trying to understand. Our job is all about people. At the end of the day, I think people are at the center of every security issue, particularly in the land domain, where I've spent most of my career. So it's all about trying to understand the team that you're working with, understanding the needs of the people you're serving, the people you're working for, and trying to communicate the messages that you're trying to get across in language that resonates with them and is important to them. I would say certainly in the domain that we're both engaged in right now, that's been increasingly important, trying to communicate the value of women, peace, and security with respect to NATO's core tasks, putting into the language that matters here in this building. The same thing right now with efforts that we're undertaking back home, around cultural evolution and increasing our capacity for operating in the human environment. It's all about being able to communicate this in language that resonates with the people you want to implement, and helping people understand the value and the importance of things and motivating people to get excited about it.
You speak about the importance of communication within the military, but looking outside, what do people outside the military system often misunderstand about your job?
I think, when people are thinking about this as a career, and, I've had this conversation with my own sister, and I so often hear people say, I could never be in the military. I don't like to follow rules, and I don't like to be told what to do. And again, I'll go back to, my first tour in Afghanistan as a young 23-year-old woman in charge of 40 people in a combat zone. The way we operate with Mission Command, I mean, the amount of decision flexibility and space that you have, the decisions that you're asking to make, the amount of opportunity to use your initiative and shape the direction that things are going to take. Like, I think people think it's a rigid hierarchy where you're continuously told what to do and how to do it. It's actually quite the opposite. Like, so frequently we're told, this is the effect we want you to achieve. This is the goal we want you to get to. It's up to you to use your initiative and your creativity and leverage, everything that your team has to offer to get you there. So I think that's a really common misperception. And the other piece is probably that the limits on how you can serve. Like, again, in my early career and in multiple places, I always felt like I was eventually going to get out and go work in the humanitarian field. But I've recognized that actually a lot of the things that I wanted to do in that space, I've been able to do in this realm. So I think there's a lot of opportunity within the military to serve in the way that's most valuable to you.
Speaking about challenges, have you faced any challenge as a woman in the military?
Well, I have a list. No. Oh yeah, I mean it's an immensely challenging career. It's challenging from a work-life balance perspective. I mean, I have a young daughter trying to balance this career with making sure I'm there and meeting her needs. I mean, she wasn't even 2 years old when I had to deploy for 6 months to Ukraine. That's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And actually, I find, it was very easy before that when I think back on it now. When I bring those considerations into place, it's become more challenging. But I mean, there's no doubt that it's a challenging career where it's physically challenging, it's mentally challenging, the structures can be challenging. It's interesting. I've been trying to reflect on this because I have a peer group of women officers in the combat arms who are my rank or above, and we're kind of this bubble that have managed to make it through and keep going. And there isn't a large group in front of us, and there's a bit of a gap before there's another group behind us. And I keep trying to reflect on, maybe what it is that was special in that time or that period that's allowed us to stay and thrive. And the thing I keep coming back to is that I think we connected with each other early. And we've been remarkably supportive of each other as we've been going through these challenges and celebrating each other's successes. I think, that drives home how critical these networks are. The challenges are significant, the obstacles are there, but when you have people that you can navigate them with and support you through it, I think it makes an incredible difference.
Talking about people, is there any specific person, individual who has helped you along the way?
There's been so many. I mean, this network of women that I have are absolutely incredible. I've had amazing male peers who have been supportive, who have been mentors. But, when we were talking about challenges, when I talk about, trying to balance this career with my young daughter, I would have to say my parents, my family, have just been this incredible support network, including my partner, my sister, like this whole family network that supports me and my daughter to allow me to do this work, to allow me to come here to NATO headquarters, to allow me to deploy. I wouldn't be able to do this work without that network.
Let's talk about the future and your future ambitions in or beyond the armed forces. What do you see for yourself?
I certainly have a dream. Like, one of the things that keeps me going right now is wanting to see our organization embrace this concept that people truly are at the center of every security issue, regardless of whether it's in the land domain or not. That this is truly a human endeavor, and how we conduct ourselves internally, how we build our teams, the climates that we create, that's inextricably linked to our performance on the battlefield. We know that, cohesive teams where trust is at the center, these are teams that are able to implement mission command, to integrate combined arms tactics, to excel in these increasingly complex roles that we're asking people to perform on the battle space, but also recognizing that, perception and influence can be more decisive on the battlefield than firepower and maneuver. So we truly have to be deliberate about increasing our capabilities and our capacity for operating in the human environment. I mean, here in NATO, we so often talk about defend every inch, but territory is only one piece of it. We have to be ready to defend every person. We have to think of security from a human-centric perspective. So I have a dream of building out that sort of framework for the Canadian Armed Forces or for the Army, wherever I find myself. I would also love to work on greater connection between the military and all of the other, civil military connection, I guess, and national resilience, and how these pieces come together. I think maybe I'll get to work on some of that in my next job, as I move to our Joint Force Command to stand up our Joint General Engineer Support Group. But yeah, these are the things I would love to be able to accomplish before I leave.
A real whole of society approach
exactly.
to security. I couldn't agree more. To conclude, what would you say to young women who are considering joining the armed forces but are still not convinced about it?
I think I would reinforce the message that, this is a place where you can come and serve and be your full, complete self, and how much you're needed in this space, like how much we need your perspectives, and the ideas that you're going to bring, and the different approaches and the different things that you're going to see that maybe some of your counterparts won't, that we need you here, and we're getting much better at designing our systems to say that with more than words. We're working on equipment that's going to fit you. We're working on, improving the culture and the climate and our leadership models to recognize that it doesn't have to be one size fits all. So this is a place you can come. You can serve in the way that you want to serve. It's such a meaningful job. The sense of purpose keeps you going during the most difficult of times, and you'll get to serve with, some of the best people and form these tight, close friendships that will stay with you probably for the rest of your life, because you go through these hardships together. So please come. We need you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.